I saved a girl from drowning. She then sued me. AMA. I am a trained swimmer and completed all classes to become a lifeguard. However, swimming never was more than a hobby for me, and I chose a totally different career path. In 2007 I saved a girl from drowning. For those of you unexperienced with seashores and beaches, the sea will always push you back to the shore unless you are further than a given point. After this given point, the strong current will either push you deeper into the sea, or keep you where you are. You can't just float back to the shore, you will drown for exhaustion. In 2007 I was at the beach with a few friends when I noticed a girl way too far from the shore. By too far, I mean way too far, at least twice as far as any other person. Her gestures were clear, she was drowning, barely keeping her head above water. I turned around, no lifeguard. I later learned the man chose to take a break and was at the bathroom. To make this clear, she was getting further and further from the shore by the second. I'm a good swimmer, I raced to her, then carried her on my back to the shore, keeping her above water. She had already swallowed a lot of water. I risked my own life because my weight with hers could have been too much. But I made it. The lady later sued me. Now, I learned later that she had to spend 3 days at the hospitals, couldn't afford it, tried to sue the beach owners but her case was rejected, but she still sued me. Her case? I should have saved her earlier. I had been careless, not carrying her to the shore fast enough, and should have let the lifeguard do his job. Yes, you read that right. I had injured her, she was in pain, she wouldn't have swallowed as much water, if that makes any sense, etc., etc., etc. I had the case thrown out by a judge, but still had to hire a lawyer, and to suffer the humiliation. It was an unnecessary stress. I felt disgusted and betrayed. AMA. You should send her Christmas cards every year, just like the sweetest, happiest passive-aggressive Christmas card you can muster. Maybe a picture of you down at the beach with a Santa hat or something, with a nice little "just thankful we're both alive to celebrate another Christmas. I wish you a safer and prosperous new year. P.S. Be careful when swimming next summer. That's a great idea and it would possibly even work, but I really don't want to have anything to do with this woman. Ugh, that's awful. I nearly drowned at Virginia Beach when I was 13 or 14. An off-duty firefighter saved my life. It would have never occurred to me to be anything less than eternally grateful. Okay, a question. How can a beach have an owner? It's not like an acre in a subdivision you just drop a house on. Also, did this put you off helping people in the future? How can a beach have an owner? Also, did this put you off helping people in the future? No, not really. Well, I didn't really get another such occasion, but I would do it again. How much did you have to pay for the lawyer and other legal fees? How much time did the ordeal take up? I paid around $3,500, but I had to hire another lawyer. The first lawyer recommended me to accept a deal with the defendant, citing that legal fees alone would be more than the deal. She sued for $150,000, but lawyer offered to settle for $20,000, which was her medical bill, her legal fee and lost wages. I immediately refused and fired the lawyer. I had already given him an $800 deposit. He worked a grand total of 3 hours, maximum, on my case. This took around 3 to 4 months to settle. We filed a motion to dismiss and it was granted. Something like this happened to my uncle. As an off-duty fireman, he saw a car with 2 girls in their 20s go off a bridge into an orchard. By the time he got to the car, he saw that the girl in the passenger seat was dead, the car was on fire, and he suffered burns getting the girl out of the driver's seat. The surviving girl then sued him because she said he hurt her back and won. So what's the lesson here? Next time, let 'em burn. Awesome job there, Judge. Similar story. My brother-in-law saved an old man, whose airway was blocked, with a MacGyvered tracheotomy. He lost his job as a paramedic because of the subsequent lawsuit. That hideous scar on his neck was uber traumatic compared to his imminent death. God, I hate the American justice system. I was driving home in an ice storm quite a few years back and a woman went flying past me doing about 65 miles per hour. There was a turn just ahead and instead of making the turn, her vehicle went straight and nose down into the ditch and then did 2 flips end over end and then 4 more side to side. It was like watching something in slow motion. Since it happened right in front of me, I was the first one to her. I pulled to the side of the road, my vehicle sliding on the ice as I tried to stop. I jumped out to run to her and almost slipped in the ice on the side of the road. Once I got footing in the grass of the median, I ran to the vehicle as it rested on its roof. I can remember repeating to myself, please let her head still be attached, please let her head be attached. I was able to pry the passenger door open and found her inside the vehicle still buckled in, upside down and unconscious. I started calling to her and she started freaking out and asking me to get her out. I pulled her out and sat her up as more people started to arrive. As the others took care of her, I flagged down a trucker, the pocket pager days, and had him call for help on the emergency channel. I went back to make sure she was still okay and she had a few people tending to her, so I got the hell out of there. My main thought was I have a young son and I don't want to get sued for trying to do the right thing. TLDR, saw a bad accident, helped out, and scooted. How the FK did that cunt win? I can see her winning if your uncle was completely untrained, he removed me wrong and hurt me, but he was a goddamn firefighter. It's part of his job to know how to remove someone from just such a situation. I can't think of any profession better suited to that. How the hell did she prove that he hurt her and not the initial crash? Goddamn, this makes me so angry. So angry. So distressed. Your uncle losing that case has caused me mental anguish. Am I gonna sue that bastard? I absolutely believe you. Your uncle risked his life, even got injured, and still lost a lawsuit. And he can't even sue anyone or do anything. Completely ridiculous. You know, in my case, what if the woman had won? I'd be broke and bankrupt. I would have lost everything. I had a similar experience to the op, except I didn't get sued. Growing up on the beaches of Durban, my friends and I would go surfing at the crack of dawn and spend a whole day in the water / on the beach. It was particularly rough that morning, with the storm approaching, but we didn't give a FK. Storm surf can have some of the best swells you've seen and we were in that faster than Garfield gets in a serving of lasagna. It was just a buddy and myself out there that morning and we were having a blast. We had been out surfing for about 2 hours when we decided to go home and get our bodyboards because there was an awesome shore break going on and it was sucking up like crazy. So when we get back, there's this hysterical family on the beach, fat shit dad, skinny mom, and a red-headed little girl. They were jumping and waving like mad at the ocean, so we asked them what was up. They pointed out, past backline, that their son got sucked out with riptide. Now, my friend and I both did nippers, which is basically junior life saving, so we got on our boards and paddled out to the dude. The sea was pretty rough and my friend is kind of a tubby dude, so he ended up struggling just past mid-break. He couldn't make it and screamed to me that he's turning back to shore. I kept at it, as the kid wasn't getting sucked further out, but the side wash was taking him towards a nearby river mouth. I knew that if he made it to where the river mouth was, the current from the river pumping out would have pushed him out even further, so I had to hurry. I get to the dude eventually and told him to grab my leash. He was still on his board, so I could paddle him back to shore. I had my fins on, so it made things much easier. As soon as I got near enough for him to grab my leash, he left his board and tried to climb onto mine. Now, I don't know how many of you folks are surfers or beachgoers, but let me say that a bodyboard can't accommodate 2 people, so when the dude jumped on me, he nearly drowned us both. He was panicked and we were getting closer to the river mouth. I had to do something quick. Clearly the polystyrene board he was using was not nearly enough to maintain his weight. He was quite the hefty one himself, so I told him to get on my board. I jumped in the water and started tugging him back to shore. It was a gruesome paddle back, with the waves at backline smashing the poor porker off the board every time. However, after what felt like a lifetime of swallowing sea water and pushing my muscles to the limit, we eventually got to shore. I collapsed on the beach instantly. I had never had to endure something as intensive as that, but I felt good. I knew that I may have just saved somebody from drowning, and that is a rewarding feeling that I can't describe. Get this, the dude runs crying to his parents, where they hug him and comfort him. The parents don't even look at me, laying on the shore, out of breath and no energy to stand. They then took their child and left, without giving me a single thanks or even a nod of approval. That, to me, felt like a slap in the face. I may have just saved their child's life and they couldn't even show their gratitude. Granted, I'm a lot older now and I understand that they must have been in a lot of shock, so that may have contributed to not showing me thanks for what I did for their son and their family. Edit for clarification on terminology. Shore break, the waves which break on, or near shore. Mid-break, the waves which break in the middle, between the two breaks. Backline, the initial break of the waves, right at the back. Then I'll say thanks on his behalf. Got into bodyboarding in NSW a few years back, and after getting my confidence up I got a bit cocky. Went out in a near storm /huge swell and got stuck in a rip. Didn't know enough at the time to get out of it, and kicked against it for a good 45 minutes until my legs felt like lead weights and I just couldn't move them anymore. I had at this point accepted that I was going to die. Got so caught up in looking towards the shore, didn't notice a breaking wave crashed down on me. Pushed me down deep and swallowed a lot of water. Finally made it up to the surface and I knew if that happened again it was over. Heard someone yelling at me in the distance, and looked over to see a surfer. Thank God he was obviously really skilled, as he was literally the only other person out in these conditions. He was motioning for me to swim out of the rip, but I was too exhausted to make sense of his gestures. I waved for him to help, and another wave came down on me and that seemed like it was it. My body went limp and just as I was ready to take a deep breath of salt water I felt a tug on my leash and cold air on the back of my head. He explained to me that I needed to go out further with the rip to make it easier for us to get out. So I mustered all of my strength and kicked further out into the ocean with him next to me. We finally get out of the rip and he tells me to hold onto his leash so he can pull us in. We get past the mid-break and a huge one starts coming in at us. I panic because I really feel like I just don't have the energy to do anything about it and it's way too late to duck dive it. He tells me to ditch my board and swim deep, so I do my best, but the wave grabs my board and drags me along the ground. I get up and see another one coming, but I'm in a good position for this one and manage to catch it into shore. Crawled onto the beach and just collapsed. Laid there for what felt like hours. When I finally had the energy to get up and head home, I looked out and didn't see him anywhere. That surfer saved my life that day, and I didn't even get to say thanks. I really wish I'd have been able to. I was saved by a random guy when I was drowning at age 15. He could have easily drowned with me but instead did what you did and carried me out of the river and safely to shore before an ambulance even got there. 6 years later I still think about it, and I never got to give him simple thank you because I was in shock and being seen by paramedics. I would give anything to find this guy. I want you to know that what you did was amazing and you deserve nothing but honor for it. See. If you don't stick around, you can't get sued.